Welcome children. Today's topic is voice. Before explaining the topic, let me tell you what are these voices. A transitive verb which has both a direct object or an indirect object has two voices. The active voice and the passive voice. Voices show whether the subject of the verb acts or is acted upon. In a voice, a sentence is divided into three parts: subject, verb and object. Subject means the person or thing who we are talking about or the doer of the action. Verbs. All doing words are called verbs. Object. About what we are talking about, the subject is called the object. Now let me tell what is called active voice or why is it called active voice. It is called active because here the verb suggests action. The subject of the sentence, whether a person or thing is involved in an act. In active voice, the subject of the verb is the doer of the action and thus active, or a verb is said to be in the active voice when the subject of the verb is the doer of the action or acts or is active. For example, the potter carried the luggage. In this sentence, about whom we are talking about or who is doing the action? The potter. That means the potter is doing the action or we are talking about the potter. Next, what is the potter doing? The potter is doing the work of carried. So, carried is the verb in this sentence. What is the potter carrying? The potter is carrying the luggage. So, the luggage is object here. Now, let me tell what is passive voice or why is it called passive voice. It is called passive because the person or thing denoted by the subject is not at all active but passive. It is not involved in action but action is done to it. In other words, it is acted upon or a verb is said to be in the passive voice when the subject of the verb does not act but suffer the action by someone or something. For example, the snake was killed by the mongoose. In this sentence, the snake is not active. It is merely the receiver of the action done by others, that is by the mongoose. Hence, the action of the verb is in the passive voice. Let me explain with examples. In active voice, the sentence consists of subject, verb and object. While changing into passive voice, the object comes in place of subject and subject goes in place of object and the verb changes according to tense. In active voice, if the sentence is given in simple present tense, that means if first form of the verb is given and sometimes s or es is added to the verb, that means the sentence is given in simple present tense. While changing a sentence of simple present tense into passive voice, then it becomes is, am, are plus third form of the verb is added. For example, he writes an essay. In this sentence, we are talking about he or he is the doer of the action. So, he is the subject here. With write, s is added. So, it is in first form of the verb. An essay is the object here. While changing into passive voice, an essay comes in place of subject and essay is singular. So it is added. Then he changes into him. So in passive voice, it becomes an essay is written by him. Number 2. My parents love me. In this sentence, my parents is the subject. Love is the verb and me is the object here. While changing into passive voice, me changes into I and comes in place of subject with I always. Am is added. The third form of love is loved. In passive voice, always by is used. The subject, my parents, goes in place of object. In passive voice, this sentence becomes I am loved by my parents. Number 3. A poet writes poems. In this sentence, the object poems comes in place of subject. The subject poems is plural. So, with poems, are is added. The third form of write is written. Then, by is added. The subject, a poet, goes in place of object in passive voice. This sentence becomes Poems are written by a poet. Number 4. Do you need money? This sentence is given in interrogative forms while changing into passive verbs. Do or does changes into is or are. Do means plural, does means singular. The object money is singular, so is added. The object money comes in place of subject. The third form of need is needed. By is always added in the passive verb. The subject you goes in place of object. So in passive verb, the sentence becomes, is money needed by you? Number 5. Does he help you? In this sentence, the object you is regarded as plural. So are is added. Instead of does, the object you comes in place of subject. The third form of help is helped. In passive voice, by is always used. The subject he changes into him and goes in the place of object. So, in the passive voice, this sentence becomes, are you helped by him? Number 6. Who looks after these plants? In this sentence, who changes into by whom? The object these plants are plural, so are is used. The object these plants comes in place of subject. The third form of look after is looked after. So in passive voice, this sentence becomes, by whom are these plants looked after? Number 7. Children do not fly kites. This is a negative sentence. In this sentence, the object kites is plural and comes in place of subject. Do not changes into are not. The third form of fly is flown. By is always added in passive verb. The subject children goes in place of object. So in passive verb, this sentence becomes, kites are not flown by children. And with this, I am ending my today's class. Goodbye.